Hey everybody, this is a little bit different video that I'm going to be doing regarding market updates. I'm going to give you sort of a macro view of what I'm seeing right now in Canada overall, how it's affecting the economy, which ultimately will affect us locally where we live. Obviously, real estate is affected by other factors such as how much immigration, how much growth is happening in your city, how much development is happening in your city as well. So keep all of those things in mind. Specifically, I've always targeted the Hamilton, Kitchener, Waterloo, Niagara, and Burlington areas. So that is sort of my overview of what I'm seeing right now. So I'll stick to that. So first of all, these numbers are taken from CREA. And in January 2023, it's the slowest we've seen in the last 14 years. And out of that, January, it's also the slowest month we've ever had since lockdown for real estate sales. I will remind you again that Canada's GDP relies heavily on real estate and all that's associated with it. Fees across the board, renovations, moving, taxation, etc. GDP is tied heavily to that. So if our numbers are down in real estate, that also means that it's going to drastically affect our economy. So always keep that into consideration. I do believe we're going to see a weeding out in my industry. I do believe that a lot of people got into this because they felt like it was easy money. It's not easy money. It's great when the wave is great and you're really, really busy. But the reality is we are seeing average trend lines come back into place. I'll explain that a little bit more. And average times to sell a property, that is definitely elongated, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. So a little side note that the interest rates have gone up the fastest in history and prices have dropped as fast as what we saw the rate increase. So we are in a balanced market. Balanced market meaning we don't have a surplus of sellers and we don't have a surplus of buyers. So that has definitely made the market prices be a direct reflection of where they are right now. Interest rates have affected everything greatly as well. What I want to say is we are moving back to the long-term average trend line of property value increases, as opposed to what we've experienced the last 3 years. So please note the last 3 years in no way, shape, or form have been normal. It is not normal for property values to be going up by tens of thousands of dollars every 6 weeks, week over week on continuum. So we are moving back to long-term average trend lines. Real estate, I will remind you, is a 5 to 10 year cycle, so don't forget that. Where do I see prices going in the next 2 years? I wish I had a crystal ball, but I don't. But it's certainly, and this is the geek part of me coming out, this depends on the path of the monetary policy. So I know we're Canada, but our country, unfortunately, we are always at the mercy of the Federal Reserve in the United States because of how closely our economies are tied to each other. Canada can't really sidestep what's happening in the US, and our interest rates are a direct reflection of that. So the Canada bond market is basically, the yields have peaked in the 4%. So our fixed rates right now, last time I checked anyhow, are lower than what the variable rate is. And what I always want to remind you is the borrower will always want to maximize the borrowing power, and that goes in lockstep with the lower rates. So we really are at the mercy of the government of Canada's 5-year bond rate curve, because that is what those interest rates are based on. So we need to see, the more we see fixed rates increase, it will further erode the borrowing power of the individuals wanting to buy properties. Again, a very negative for our economy. So if we can see the interest rates level out, we are in a balanced market. We've seen the prices drop. Do I have a prediction? Will prices drop further? Again, another crystal ball question. I think that prices are continuing. I think they'll continually be likely to go down, but very, very slowly. And I think that's going to be in very specific markets and specific homes. I've said this all along. The homes that were way overinflated in price, that needed a lot of work, or that were outside of choice areas, they were selling for prices that they should never have sold for. We are seeing corrections in those areas. In other areas, I'll give for example, in Kitchener, Waterloo, there's an area in Waterloo that my seller and I have been monitoring over the last year, because he's contemplating a move outside of the city for retirement. And you know, if you were to read the news, you think the sky is falling and the prices have all dropped. And he sent me a message the other week and saying, why are they not going down? And they really aren't going to go down, in my opinion, drastically. The only thing that could make property prices drop drastically in the solid areas is we go into another world war, or we have a ridiculous recession. And most of the Canadian economists are calling for a very mild recession in Canada. So do I think they're going to go down? Not really, marginally so. And I also think that if you were to look at the long-term trend line in Canada over the next 5 to 10 years, it's really going to look like a flat line. So again, averaging, long-term again. So it will look like a flat line. Do I think we're at rock bottom? Quite possibly in certain areas. I think we might see a little bit of a drop depending on what happens with our interest rates. But again, if you want to time the market, that's called speculation. And I am not a supporter of speculation. That's a completely different thing. And then you might as well go play the stock market, or you might as well get into flipping. I'm specifically talking about real estate as a long-term investment here. Supply and demand is also what affects real estate in conjunction with the buying power of people. And right now, we are in a balanced market. So keep that in mind. So what I am seeing with sellers right now, are there distress sales? Are we seeing power of sales? The numbers have gone up so marginal that it's too insignificant to actually say we're seeing a massive increase in power of sales. Distress sales, I know a lot of buyers out there are waiting for the ball to drop and the distress sales to happen. You know, right now, people always need to move. There's always closings every day. Every day, people need to move. They're moving into their first-time home. They're getting a lease on something. So I don't necessarily think that we're going to see the bottom fall out here in Canada like we've seen in the United States happen when they had the mortgage crisis back in 07, 08. Again, I will reiterate, we are in a balanced market. So you don't end up with a major reduction in prices until we're in a buyer's market. And the fact of the matter is, I want to stress, is that we have more people in this country that need a house than we have housing available. So that a buyer's market is when there's a surplus of sellers and we don't have enough buyers. Well, we're not in that situation. So remember that we have not enough people to have properties available to them. So we're in a balanced market in conjunction with that, though, because the sellers are almost equal to the buyers right now. So the price fluctuations have dropped and our buying power has gone down as well. So sellers are really holding on. This is one of the things that I am seeing. The people that would have in the last 5 years basically said, hey, I want to cash out on the equity in my home and I want to buy 2 properties. I want to buy one smaller one and then I want to buy a vacation property. What we're seeing is those sellers now, they're really holding on, or people that might have purchased a property at the peak and they overpaid for their property. They are desperate to get through the next 2 to 3 years when the interest rates somewhat correct themselves. So my predictions, I think that if you're thinking that you want to move or you have a job change, it's an interesting market right now. I'm going to extrapolate more information on this and continue on with it. But I think the real takeaways from this are, I think that we are seeing the bottom right now. I think we might see a slight decrease even more. And then the increase will be a very, very long and slow build over the next 5 to 10 years because we have normalized. And again, the other takeaway is we are now back to the long-term average trend line of property value increases. So that's my little economic speech for housing. And I hope you enjoyed it. For all of you that are geeks out there like I am and love data. So a happy real estate market. If you're interested in knowing what the property values are in your area, I'm happy to help you out. If you're interested in looking in certain areas, I'm also happy to help you out. Love data and I love real estate. Ciao for now. Love y'all. Bye.